Okay, this video is the 4 smartest women of all time. And the first one we're going to start with is Young Hee Ko. Okay, this is the lady who invented the best chemotherapy drug ever made. She was a total workaholic. She never had any kids. I don't even know if she got married, the last I know of her, okay? And I couldn't even find her real picture. I found this picture on her website, but they totally screwed this lady over. So she's the inventor of 3-bromopyruvate, 3BP, for chemotherapy. Had incredible results in the limited clinical experience it was allowed to have. It was the most promising chemotherapy drug ever. It was written about extensively, in this book here called Tripping Over the Truth. I think I got the book hidden behind myself here. Okay, so see now the stupid pros, they think, oh, she must be celebrated. They'll give her a Nobel Prize for describing a chemotherapy drug. No, it's important to understand how healthcare works. The last thing in the world the big pharma wants is a chemotherapy drug that works well, because then it would steal the business from the other drugs that they're making millions and billions of dollars off of. So as soon as she came up with this, first of all, they try to discredit her. They try to fire her from her job. Then they say she's crazy, and they demand a psychiatric evaluation of her. She refuses a psychiatric evaluation, and she basically is forced to resign, in fake disgrace, okay, to get rid of her. She tries to go through other channels to get funding for her drug to do the more advanced clinical trials to get it into clinical practice. They try to steal her drug from her. Again, they keep trying to screw her over, and they ruined her career. They blocked the funding for the drug. I don't know where it's at today. I know it hasn't gone anywhere. So what I'm trying to say is this is what happens when a person does this. Luckily for her, too, that the guy wrote this book, Tripping Over the Truth. It's a magnificent book. If you're interested in cancer, you should definitely read this book. It's great. It's not even good. It's a great book. And so I'm sorry to say it, but that's what happens. So you don't want to go into a field where they're not going to allow you to be successful. So I would say don't go into cancer research because they will screw you over. If you think I'm exaggerating, then that means you don't know anything about it, okay? What I'm saying is like 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, and what I'm also saying for the patients, use your brains. Think about it. If you have a system that gives amphetamines to children for attention deficit, which is proven to have terrible long-term outcomes, if they would poison children, do you think they care about you? No. So don't be a chump, okay? All right, so let's look at the next female genius. Okay, here's Ann Coulter. Okay, now this lady is a magnificent writer. She's probably the greatest female writer who ever lived. Okay, now Ayn Rand is a better thinker. Ayn Rand is an absolute genius, and she's the best philosopher. Okay, but Ann Coulter, gosh, is she magnificent. If you just read her books, I read a whole bunch of her books. And just an example of how smart this lady is, she wrote a book, Godless, and there's all this stuff about Darwin and Darwinian biology, evolutionary biology. And she's so funny. She's like the funniest writer on evolutionary biology. Smarter than all these guys who devoted their life, far funnier than all these guys who devoted their life to it. She's an absolute genius, this lady. And that's why, she's hated, because she wants freedom. Anybody who is smart and wants freedom gets demonized. Oh, she's a bitch and a half, bitch. Okay, it's because she's a genius, okay? They can't refute what she says. She tells the truth in a clever and funny way. So then they start saying, oh, she's a crazy bitch. Okay, all right. That's what's always done. When some guy's really smart, they know he's telling the truth, so they just say, oh, he's such an asshole, he's such a extremist or some other bullshit like that. It's just an attempt to discredit the person. But if you read her books, you'll be amazed at how clever and funny they are. Amazed how good they are. Okay. I was trying to find out who's the smartest woman. I read tons and stuff about smart females. Most of them are fake. Most of them you hear like, what's that? Like there'll be some like Ann Landers or some BS like that. Those types, they're all fake, okay? They're not real. There's a lot of stuff on the internet's fake, okay? Now this lady's another incredible genius. She, Lorraine Day, was a cancer patient, and she survived breast cancer for multiple decades. I don't know how long, I think it was over 40 years, around 40 years at least. She is an incredible speaker, an incredible thinker. She was an orthopedic surgeon. She's always getting herself in trouble because she tells the truth. If you tell the truth in healthcare, that means you're always pissing people off. Healthcare makes money based on lying to people. So somebody comes along and tells the truth, tries to help the patients, they get screwed over. They get pushed out. So they were always pissed off at her and screwing her over and hassling her. She wrote a bunch of medical books. She wrote a bunch of religious books. And I'm also going to tell you, some people say, oh, that book's not as good as that other book because it was self-published. Bullshit. The best books are very often self-published because the best books are not allowed to be published by conventional publishers very often. Okay, you would be surprised if you look at the truth in the history of book publishing. Okay, her medical books are magnificent. Her Bible scholar books, I like her medical books. I'm not, but her Bible scholar books are fascinating. I'll tell you that. She is no shrinking violet. She sells tons of stuff that will just piss people off through the roof. Her medical books, here's the typical thing she says. There's man's way. I learned a lot of this from her. There's man's way and there's God's way to better health. Man's way is expensive and it doesn't work. God's way is free and it works much, much better. Doctors can't even make themselves healthy. How are they going to make you healthy? They don't know how to cure diseases. They die of cancer just like the patients do. Okay, drugs don't cure any disease unless they're a replacement therapy like for thyroid, hypothyroid, or antibiotics. Other than that, she says they don't cure any disease. Okay. Anyway, what did she use to be a multi-decade survivor of metastatic breast cancer? A low-fat vegan diet. She got her exercise. It looks like she got her son every time I saw her. But she was an amazing lady. There's no speaker like her. She's magnificent. You'd be amazed if you hear her speak. Okay, and now, probably the smartest female who ever lived, Ayn Rand. Okay, and again, people tell me, how could I like Ayn Rand so much? And also, she's not Christian. How could I say she's such a great writer? And she's such a bitch, and she's so crazy. And she ended up taking amphetamines for weight loss, and she ended up taking welfare money, and she was so much in favor of capitalism. Let me tell you something. Just go to any quote site and read quotes of Ayn Rand. You'll be stunned at how brilliant they are. Absolutely brilliant. She grew up in Russia in the transition phase between when it was free and when it was communist. The Soviets screwed over her parents. She's very pissed off about that. I think her father owned a pharmacy or something, was a successful businessman, and they ruined his career, ruined his life. She saw all these people killed by the Soviets and starving to death. She saw how, the famous joke about Russia is they created 70 years of bad weather because they screwed over the farmers. They would just take all their produce and just take it away from them. So the farmer's like, why should I do anything? They would just do the least possible work so they don't starve to death, but they destroy all the incentive. And here's a typical Ayn Rand quote. There is no difference between communism and socialism except in the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave men by force, socialism by the vote. It's merely the difference between murder and suicide. And she's absolutely right. Look at all the Western European countries basically committing suicide from socialism as the mechanism, okay? And the same thing was happening to the USA, and hopefully the USA is going to turn that around, but we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out yet. She wrote this book right here called The Romantic Manifesto, and it's a magnificent book. The two greatest books ever written on literature and how to become a writer are The Romantic Manifesto by Ayn Rand and Chopin's Art of Literature. I actually like Schopenhauer's Art of Literature better, but man, is this a magnificent book. It's a magnificent book. And then other people say, why do I call her a closet Christian? Because she's always saying how great she loves all the Christian writers, okay? Because she knows they're the best, okay? 19 out of the top 20 best novels are all written by Christian writers. Hers is in there, Atlas Shrugged. But the reason why she couldn't produce good character development is she kept on pushing formal Christianity away. But it's what resonates with the human heart, with the human life, okay? We all have to, eventually go to our cross and face our problems and hope for redemption and trying to make it. And she was just a little bit too much of a cold potato to accept that. But boy, did she try to, push for keeping capitalism, okay? You need the 3 C's. You need capitalism, you need a constitution, and you need Christianity. That's what you need to have a free society. And all this stuff about multiculturalism is a bunch of BS. All these other places are third world crap holes for the most part. And if they're not a third world crap hole, then they're totally racist and don't want anybody allowed coming into their place, okay? So yeah, everybody says, oh, the white Christians of America, they're so racist. Oh, bullshit. Then why does everybody want to come here, okay? They want to come here and they don't want to leave, okay? That's absolute horseshit because they're the nicest, most fair people in the whole world, all right? That's why everybody wants to live in a white Christian country, because they produce good societies with low crime, with good electricity, with good availability of food, with good availability of shelter, okay? They're the ones that did it, okay? And it was, anyways, some other good things about Ayn Rand. Let's see. She did a lot more than just that. And she loved America. She loved the freedom of America. She wrote about it extensively, that the founding fathers of the United States are the greatest founding fathers of any country that ever existed, okay? And they were 98+% devout Christians, okay? You'd be amazed at how devout they were. I've gone back and read these original papers about them. Much, much more Christian. It was even required in some states that you be Christian just to live in the state. They're much more Bible-thumping Christians than you could imagine. Okay, she also loved the Statue of Liberty. She loved the skyscrapers in New York. She said, you go to Soviet Union and the people are starving to death in the streets, living in hovels with no bathrooms, no electricity. In the United States, they're building giant skyscrapers. She said, what a difference it was. And she really stood up for the capitalist, the American businessman. This book of hers is another one of her magnificent books, Ayn Rand, Return to the Primitive, the Anti-Industrial Revolution. And she was aware of all this stuff back in the mid-1960s and earlier that was happening on this hand side, my left, was an attempt to destroy capitalism, to destroy productivity. The environmentalism whole thing, in her opinion, was that it was just a way to shut down the oil industry, to shut down the cities, to shut down the industrial productivity of America. And guess what? She was right. I was considering being a wildlife biologist, but once I saw how the environmental people in that field, they weren't there to help nature. They were there because they hated people, and they wanted to reduce the size of the you-know-what. It's called the population. And I'm like, holy crap, this is not about nature or biology. This is bullshit. They hated the farmers. I had a lot of friends who were farmers. I liked the farmers. Okay, anyways, this book is full of great essays. This is the one that has comprachicos in there. She talks about how putting children in a classroom with a bunch of kids their same age means they're all equally ignorant and they can't help each other, and it's designed to delay their development. She's absolutely right about that. She's absolutely right about the whole American preschool grade school, the way it just teaches people. It trains them like rote memorization and repetition. She said, that's how you train an animal. This is an insult to humanity. She says, the way you educate a human is you teach understanding. She's great. Man, is she a great writer. I've read tons of her stuff. Okay, and again, just go through her quotes. You'll be amazed at how brilliant they are. Okay, and the other thing too is she's like, stop apologizing. She says, stop supporting your destroyers, the people who are destroying you, destroying your country. She said, America has nothing to apologize. She said the American Indians that were in the United States of America before we came here were a bunch of savages, cannibals and bloodthirsty and not nice to each other. And other people have said the same thing. If you look, Matt Walsh just did a video on that. There was hardly any of them. They were spread all over the place. The settlers came here. They weren't immigrants. They were settlers. They had to come make a place to live, okay? There was nothing remotely industrialized at the time they came, and they civilized the place. Basically, when you say civilization, it's kind of like saying Western civilization. It's kind of like saying Christianity, okay? The people come here from all over the world. They don't have what the Western Christian countries have, okay? They don't have the plumbing. They don't have the electricity. They don't have the buildings. They don't have the institutions. Now, they didn't used to. The American institutions have largely been degraded. Typically, this hand side, my left, takes them over, turns them into monopolies, then destroys meritocracy, then turns them into, factories for, not asleep, WOKE bullshit to just destroy the institution. They gut the institution. They hate the client of the institution. Like the school system hates the students at the grade school, high school, and public college level, okay? And it's like that for many other American institutions. This hand side has destroyed them, okay? But, what I love about her, she was always fighting for the truth, for meritocracy, for freedom, for opportunity for people. She said the most important minority is the individual. If you guarantee individual rights, you guarantee rights for everybody. She's absolutely correct. And Coulter was very much the same, okay? And Day was very much about, live through the imitation of Christ. Do what Christ wants you to, and you'll lead a much better life. Okay, and then the other lady, the first one, Young Hee Ko, she was trying to save people's lives from cancer, working, 16-hour days, and she figures out the best chemotherapy drug ever designed, and what happens? They screw her over, ruin her career, okay? So, anyways, I'm glad they wrote a book about her. Anyways, those are the 4 greatest female geniuses that I'm aware of. If you got any other ones, please put them in the comments, and I'll try to get around to reading about them.